Coming up on today's show, we're going to break down the Bengals' first officially unofficial depth chart. There are some interesting decisions made in that. We will also break down some joint practice takeaways against the Packers. That wrapped up maybe an hour ago. There's a fight that went on. We'll break that all down for you guys. And if you haven't already been doing so, we really appreciate it when you share our videos because there is no faster way for us to grow, to get more Bengals fans subscribed so we can keep doing even more Bengals videos than when you guys share it. So share today's video so we can grow the channel and keep doing more shows for you. All right, this is based on the Bengals unofficial depth chart, which as we'll get into, there are some things that just aren't accurate to what's really going on. Quarterback-wise, everything makes sense. I will make note that Joe Burrow was technically listed last on the depth chart behind Trevor Siemian and Jake Browning and recently signed backup Reed Sinnett because he's hurt. Burrow is going to miss all of preseason. Zac Taylor said he's a few weeks out from when I said he was a few weeks out today because he doesn't want to discuss it anymore, not that I can blame him. Burrow can probably play week one. I think the expectation is he does play week one unless the Bengals want to be ultra cautious. So prediction time. Will Joe Burrow play in week one for the Cincinnati Bengals? Y for yes, N for no. Get those votes in for me. Where else but the comments section. Running back is next up here. Nothing overly surprising from this perspective. Joe Mixon was RB1. Travion Williams was 2. Chris Evans was 3 over Chase Brown, which I'm not really sure that I'm buying. I would say if you had to pick one to make the roster, if you only carry 3 backs, it's going to be Chase Brown over Chris Evans. Wouldn't necessarily read too much into that. In general, you do tend to see on some teams' depth charts, Bengals fall in that category. The rookies end up being a lot further behind than what they should be. For example, let's look at the Bengals wide receiver depth chart. The top 3, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The backups, Trenton Irwin, that's fine. Kwame Lassiter II and Trent Taylor over Charlie Jones and Andre Yoshivas, which it's just wrong. Like Lassiter's not the number 5 receiver on this team. That's not where we're at right now. Other backups were Stanley Morgan, etc. There, nothing too surprising. My guy Matt Kippenheimer out of Miami. It's a classic depth chart, unofficial depth chart. The rookies are arbitrarily low for really no reason and doesn't reflect where they're actually running. So the wide receiver depth chart of probably all of them in terms of the backups was probably the most off in terms of what's really going on. That said, if you're convinced Charlie Jones is the guy or Yoshivas is and you're in a dynasty league, send it to your friends. That way they'll fall for it and you can get them a little bit later in your drafts. The Bengals' first preseason game is Friday. I am excited. I want you guys to predict the score of the Bengals against the Packers at the pinned comments of today's video. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. The tight end depth chart is next up here. Also nothing too shocking. Irv Smith, Drew Sample. Wouldn't be shocked if Tanner Hudson could beat out Devin Asiasi for tight end 3, but I'm not going to argue too much with Devin being ahead of him. Nick Bowers, Cody Trahan, Christian Trahan, Mitchell Wilcox on the PUP list, so that one certainly made sense. Now, the offensive line depth chart was super interesting. The starters are kind of a no-brainer. That's how it works. Brown, Volson, Karras, Cappa, Williams. No surprises there whatsoever. It's the backups and where the backups were that's interesting and will also be sorted out once you get down to roster cutdown time. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to kind of juggle who's the backup where when you're not going to have 15 players. Lyle Collins listed as a right tackle on the PUP list, wasn't really on there. Max Sharping, the lone right guard. I'll make note he's gotten some run at center as well. Jackson Carman, Cody Ford in there at right tackle behind Jonah Williams. That makes sense, but if they both make the roster, they could maybe play some guard. Carman some left tackle. Hakeem Adeniji and Dante Smith out there at left tackle. I think both those guys have a better chance of making the roster than Ben Brown does at guard. So if they both make it, then the official one will kind of play around with where they actually line up. Since they carry 9 or 10, you wouldn't put 2 of them as backup left tackles since they're not going to play. Trey Hill there at center. The players are probably all in the right order. It's just maybe you flip one of them to get, if you're getting your best 5 out there with your second unit, you'd probably tweak it just a little bit, but nothing too wild there. Now, what I love in a wild positive sense is this NFL Jam shirt. Chatsports.com/Bengals Jam. It's the Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, just like NBA Jam style t-shirt. I think it's awesome. Get yours today. Chatsports.com/Bengals Jam. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Defensive tackle depth chart. Don't need to spend much time here. It all makes sense. Reeder, Hill, Carter, Tupou, J. Tufele, various backups mixed in there as well. Nothing at all to complain about. Defensive end was pretty darn interesting. We go a bit deeper. They went 2 deep, but there's 9 players, so we'll go 3 deep. So it was Hendrickson Hubbard, Joseph Asai, Cam Sample as the second team. The third team was then Terrell Basham and Myles Murphy. Now, Murphy is not defensive end 6 on this roster, and I think he's ahead of Cam Sample as well. So I'll asterisk that one pretty heavily. Then it was Raymond Johnson, Jeff Gunter, Owen Carney as that 3rd/4th team there. So Murphy's not really a defensive end 6. He's going to make the team. Basham maybe won't end up making the roster. So I would, again, asterisk that one pretty heavily. I don't think Murphy's really a 3rd-team defensive end at this point. Now, what player, and Murphy's a good answer here, but what player are you most excited to watch in the preseason? Any player, any position group. Go sound off in the comments section. All right, the Bengals linebacker depth chart here. They went 2 deep, that's correct, but again, 3 deep because of the numbers for us. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, Marcus Bailey, Akeem Davis-Gaither. Those guys kind of LB3A, 3B. Then Joe Bocci was your top other backup, which I think makes sense. A lot of Jags, I think, on the back end of this roster, practice squad guys to a certain extent. You'll see them a lot in the preseason because you're not going to play Wilson or Pratt. Wilson, by the way, did not participate at the Bengals joint practice today. Probably has some kind of a minor injury that the team isn't too concerned about long term. Cornerback with nickelback included. I will make note that they only put 2 nickelbacks on there, not the artist. Chidobe Awuzie, Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton, the starters, DJ Turner getting the first nod as the backup. Keep that in mind. That was, I'm pleased to see. Sidney Jones, the 4th, was the second one. Jalen Davis, the top backup at nickel. Marvell Tell, Alan George, and then DJ Ivey. So we put Ivey last at nickel since he was there. I don't think DJ Ivey is really your 9th corner. I think he's probably closer to corner 5 than he is corner 9, if not even corner 4. So again, that's just the rookies being lowly rated because. Now, we are getting closer to 4,000 subscribers. We will have Bengals preseason week 1 winners and losers for you guys on Saturday. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. All right, the Bengals safety depth chart here. Again, nothing majorly surprising. Maybe Michael Thomas over Tyson Anderson, but I'm not entirely sure from that perspective. Dax Hill, Nick Scott. Let's see, we've got Larry Brooks as another option at the secondary. I think that battles behind Thomas or Nick Scott, I think, is right. That's just the free safety, strong safety thing. So maybe Anderson Thomas flip, but that's about it. Bengals special teams depth chart then. Evan McPherson, the kicker. Drew Chrisman ahead as the punter, which I don't think is accurate. Cal Adamitis, Chris Evans, Trent Taylor, Charlie Jones, the top backup at other spots. Kwame Lassiter and Travion Williams, some other backups there. I think Brad Robbins is your guy at punter. I'd be very surprised, barring injury, if he didn't win the job. Chrisman's missed time because of that medical issue that he had. Everything's okay now at least. And Robbins has looked pretty good so far. I would also not ignore Charlie Jones on punt returns and kick returns. I think he's really talented in that area. We saw it across all his different time in college. I would definitely keep an eye on Jones winning that job over both Taylor and even Chris Evans potentially. All right, some quick joint practice takeaways for you guys. Mike Hilton and DJ Turner both impressed. Turner did allow one big play. I think it was against Romeo Doubs from Jordan Love, but he was really sticky otherwise, very impressive. Mike Hilton had a pick 6. Maybe you'll see the big touchdown from the Packers get posted on social media and not the pick 6 by the aggregator accounts because they pick and choose with what they post, which is really weird sometimes. But the Bengals defense was really impressive. The offense was not so much. A lot of defensive winnings on both sides of the football. The offense has really struggled to move the football overall. Might have something to do with not having your franchise quarterback out there. Defensively, again, Cam Sample, Myles Murphy, and Trey Hendrickson were all really impressive. They flashed. They kind of were borderline dominating. They were very, very good in that game. So I'm big, or joint practice, excuse me. So big check boxes all there. Murphy had a sack. Really nice to see him step up. DJ Reader also just shut down the opposing Packers run game. And then DJ Reader was heavily involved in the training camp fight that went on. No helmets being swung by Aaron Donald. Still a joke. He was not suspended last time, by the way. But there was a fight. Reader and Elton Jenkins going at it. Reader was impressive. I will say that Reader said that Elton Jenkins was a jag, a.k.a. just a guy, which isn't really accurate, but hey, you know what? You're talking trash. I have no complaints about that one. So seemingly successful joint practice there for the Cincinnati Bengals. Those are your takeaways from that. Nothing too major, too crazy from that perspective. So Hilton and Turner impressed. Bengals offense struggled. Defense was really good, and we even got a little training camp fight.